Hello everyone. In this video we will take a look at how we can create a news application with Ionic 4 and Angular. Ionic 4 is currently in beta, but it is quite stable to create real applications. So if you want to read more about the version 4 of the framework, you can head over to beta.ionicframework.com/docs and read about the framework. So yeah, let's get started. First, we need to make sure we have Node and npm installed. So for this, on our terminal, we can write node-v and npm-v. Now, if you don't see the version numbers, what you can do is you can head over to nodejs.org and then download the node for the specific platform, like either you are on Windows, Mac or Linux. Now we can install the Ionic package globally. So we can run npm install -g and then Ionic. So if you press enter, then it will install Ionic on your local machine. I already have it installed, so I won't run this step. So after you run this, you will be greeted with this Ionic utility. So if you press Ionic and if you see this screen, that means Ionic is successfully installed on your machine. So what we can do is now we can create new project with Ionic. So what we can do is we can write Ionic start my app. This is the name of the project. So I will say Ionic 4 Angular news, as we want to create news app. And for the next parameter, we will use a template. So it can be blank, then tabs, and then side menu. So what I want to use is I want to use tabs menu. I like tabs template, so I will write tabs here. And the last parameter we need to pass is -- type equal to Angular, as Ionic is framework agnostic. So what we can do is if we want to use Angular version, but we have to specify the type here. So currently I think only Angular is supported. Maybe in the future React or Vue will be supported. I'm not sure. So now we can press enter, then it will create our new project with the tabs template. For now, I don't want to integrate the SDKs, and then it will install the dependencies. It might take some time, so I will be back when it finishes. Alright, now that our project is created, so what we can do is we can open the project inside the Visual Studio Code or any editor that you prefer. So we will change the directory to a newly created folder, and then we can use code dot to open it inside the Visual Studio Code. Alright, so this is the folder structure that you get with the Ionic 4 project. This is like slightly different from like Ionic 2 or 3 project. So you will use Angular routing in this case, like in the version 4 of the Ionic, and don't use push and pop navigation that you used with Ionic 2 and 3. So here you can see we have these default pages. So about page, contact page, home page, and then the tabs page that will display the tabs. And we also have the components folder where we will put our shared components. Alright, so now let's see how we can view this project in the browser. So we will open the integrated terminal in the VS Code, and then we will run Ionic serve. Now this will open the project inside of our browser. So this is a default template or tabs template you get with Ionic. Alright, so we can open the developer console here, and then we can press this icon, toggle device toolbar, and then it will show the application inside the different screens. As you can see, currently I have selected iPhone 6. So maybe we can expand it. Alright, this looks better. Actually, let's close this also. So what we can do now is we can go back to our VS Code, and then actually I will open the terminal again. We will create two new pages. So the first page will be the news page, and the second page will be news single page. So in the first page we will show the different news, and When we click on that, we will open the new page which will show that single news. So what we can do is we can use the Ionic generators for that. So for this we can write Ionic generate, or short for G, and then page, and then the page name is news. In that case we can pass maybe dry run in that case. So what it will do is it will run the command, but it won't create any file in our directory. This is similar to Ionic Angular dry run. Actually it is using the Angular CLI. If you see here, it is running ing generate page. So it will show us what files it will create or what files it will update, as you can see here. So if we feel like this is what we require, then we can run the command again without dry run. So what I would recommend is, whenever you want to generate something, you should first try it with the dry run. If you feel like the folder structure that it will be generating is okay, then you can run that command again without a dry run. So as we have run this command, so it has created this news page or folder here. As you can see, when we generate a page, it will create these 5 files. So news module, then page.html, source file, then spec file for testing, and then the main TS file. So also we will create a new page, news single. Alright, so I will press enter here again. So now you can see we have created 2 new pages, news and news single, and actually we can maybe add it to the git, add news and news single page. This is a good practice, so that maybe you can revert back to the changes if something went wrong in your project. So what we can do now is we can go to our tabs module, and here we need to import our news page. Actually I may have to write it here. Import from news/news module, and here I can write news page module. So here I will write news page module. So I have to save it now, and then after that I can go to tabs router module, and here you can see the tabs. Actually I will minimize this terminal. Here you can see the tabs routes, so that you are seeing on the tabs page. So first one home, then second is about, then contact. So instead of home I want to use news page, so I will write maybe news here, actually news, and for the component I will use news page. So we don't need that home page. I will remove that here, and here for the page this is news, and then for the outlet this is news again. So path and outlet, and path match full, I think that is okay. If I save it and then I go back to the browser, okay, so we are getting an error. Let's see what is it. Actually there is one more step we need to do. So we have to go back to the editor, and then inside of tabs page.html, here we can write news, then news, again here I will say maybe news. For the label I will also use news. We can keep the icon home for now. So now if we go back, alright, so you can see we are getting that news page instead of the home page. So we are keeping this news page, about, and contact. Alright, so inside of the news page what I want to show is I want to show articles from a news outlet. So in this case I will be using an API called newsapi.com. So if we go here, and actually I am already logged in, I can click on that get API key. So this is a one, maybe you should generate your, this key won't work after I complete this tutorial, so you should create your own. So I can copy it, and maybe I can go back here. Actually, let's first go back to our code editor, and then here in the environments file, and here I will create two properties. So first one will be API URL, and I will put the URL in a second, and then I will put API key. So this is the one we just copied. So for the API URL, I will copy this one and I will paste it here. And now let's create a service. So I will open the terminal again, and actually I will maybe close this one, and let's use that split terminal, and I will generate a new service, Ionic generate. So if you just write Ionic generate and press enter, you will be asked to create everything that the Ionic generator provides. So we can use that also. So if I select maybe service, then it will ask us the name of the service. So I will say maybe news, and then press enter. So it will create a new service for us, and now I can open that, and here maybe we can create a constant for API URL, and that will be environment dot API URL. We can create another constant for the API key, and that will be environment dot API key. All right, now we can create a method to maybe get data. So let's say get data. In that case, what we will do is we will pass a URL here, and then we will return. Actually, we have to pass HTTP module here. So what we can do is we can say private HTTP, then HTTP client. This is not the one, so we will say angular / common / HTTP. So before that, what we need to do is we have to go to app module, and here in the imports we can write HTTP client module. So yeah, this is the right path, and then here this will work. And now what we can do is we can use this HTTP service. Actually, I will close this terminal and return this .http .get, and then we will pass a URL. So we will use the template strings, and here we can use API URL, then / we will use that URL, and then I think we have to pass the API key. So we can use a query string here, and then API key equal to, and then we can use this constant for API key. All right, and then we can save that. Now we can go back to our news component, and we can open news page, and here we can inject our service. So that will be news service, and we have to import news service. Make sure you add this statement, and here in the ng on init we can write this dot news service dot get data, and here we have to pass the URL. So we can go back to our browser, and let's just use this one, top business web headlines in the US. So we will copy this and we can go back to the editor, and then we will paste this here. Actually we have to put it inside the quotes, and then we can subscribe. So let's say maybe data, and then we will output it to the console. So if I save it, actually I am seeing one mistake here. In the news service, we first have to add and instead of question mark, and also if we go back to environment files, we have to remove that / because we are using the slash here. Alright, now if we go back to our editor, actually there is one more thing. If we go here, I think this will work. So let's go back to our browser, and now in the Ionic app, so here you can see currently we are on the news tab and this function rain, and we are getting these articles. Alright, so these are the articles. So actually what we can do is we can go to our network tab and see the URL here, and we can actually open it in our browser directly, so that we can see the entries here. So now what we can do is we can head over to Ionic docs and see what component we want to use to show these articles. So we will go to components tab here, and then what I'm thinking is let's use this card component. So it will look something like that, and what I can do is I can copy this, and let's go back to the browser, VS Code, and now let's close the other tabs, and then we can open newspage.html, and here inside the content I will paste it here. So if I save it and go back to the browser, in our app you can see this card here. Alright, actually let's remove the padding here, so I will remove that. So now if I go back, you can see this looks much better. So now let's see how we can use the articles here. So if you remember in the newspage.html, we are getting this data here, so we can create new property. So let's say articles of type maybe any, and here we can use maybe this dot articles equal to data. Actually we can also specify the interface here, maybe if we want to only accept the data of certain type, but I won't do that in that tutorial, maybe another one. So yeah, so currently our articles property holds the entire data. So here what we can do is we can use the ng4 directive, and then we can say article of, actually one second, maybe let's change this articles to data, and so that will be data. And here in the news app, newspage.html, we can say data dot articles. So if I save it and I go back to the browser, so you can see we are getting the, alright, we are getting this error because we don't have image there, so that will change in a moment. Actually this is articles. Alright, I will change that in a second. So if I go back here, actually we are here, so that will be 20 cards. So what we can do is we can go back here, and then we can change the properties here. So here in the image, let's use property binding, and then I want to use article dot URL to image, and for the title I want to use article dot title, and for the paragraph this is the content, then we can use the property description. So that will be article dot description. So now if I save it and I go back to the browser, you can see the news here with the images. Alright. Now to get rid of this error, we can go back to our editor, and then here we can specify this question mark after the data. So that means articles property is optional. So if I save it and go back to the browser, you can see the error is gone, and now we are seeing all the articles here on the page. Now let's make some small changes to the application. So if we go back to the news page, and here we can use uppercase news. We are also using about page, so I will use about here, and in the content maybe I can write this is a sample news application, and for the contact let's write maybe my Twitter username. So I will save that, and let's close it and go back to the browser, and here we can see that uppercase news, and here in the about you can see that sample application, and in the contact you can see my Twitter username. Alright, now let's see how we can populate the new single page. So we will go back to our editor, and here in the news service I will create a new property called current article. That will be of type any for now, and then I can go back to news page.html, and here let's add a click listener, and let's pass a function on go to news single page. So I will copy that. Actually let's pass article to. So now I can go back to the component ts file, and let's paste it. And now what we can do is we have to first inject the router service here. So that will be router, and Angular router. So you need to import that, and here we can write this dot news service dot current article equal to article that we have passed to the function. So that will set the current article in the service to the article that we click on. And last we can pass this dot router. Actually that will be router. So dot navigate, and here we have to pass that new single page. So if we go back to our app routing module, we can copy this path news single, and here we can paste that one, and if we save that, and now we can go to our news single page, that will be here, and here we can inject the service. So that will be new service, and here in the ng on rate we can check if the value is being set. So we can write this dot new service dot current article. So if we save that, now we go back to the browser, and when we click on any article, so you can see we are getting the response back in the console. So if we click on another article, so this is a different article. Alright, so now we can show that like in our page. So if we go back to the editor, now actually let's copy this card again, and for the main news page I don't want to show the image here, and I also don't want to show the description here, just a article. So now we can go to the news single page, and we can paste it here, and then we can go back to the ts file, news single ts file, and here we can specify the article property, and then we can use this dot article equal to, then we can use this statement. So I can save it, and here I don't want this entire line. For the image, that will be article. I think that will be it. So actually let's use title here also, article dot title. So if I save it and I go back to the browser, so it should be that page. Let's refresh it here. Now here you can see on the news page we are only seeing the title, and when we click on any title you can see the description with the image and then the title here, and the title at the top. Also let's remove the padding here also. So let's go back to the editor and let's remove padding. So if I save it and I go back to the browser, so when I click on it, now you can see the news without the padding. Now if I click on another news, so you can see that one. Alright, I think that makes sense. So that will be all for this tutorial. Thanks.